Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the MACE podcast. I'm your host, Marco Macente, and I'm very excited to be here with you today. We continue the pathway that we started last month, kicking off the season 2 of the MACE podcast, which ethos is thousands of stories, but is the heart beating in the MACE podcast. And I wanted to make a special episode this month, inviting again my friend and the guest speaker, Bonnie Low Kramen from the United States. You know that I invited already many times Bonnie in the MACE podcast, but in February, something special is happening. You may recall that I invited Bonnie in February 2023, exactly 2 years ago, to celebrate her book launch, Stuff Matters, that happened on the 28th of February 2023. After 2 years, I wanted to celebrate the anniversary, this special milestone, of course. So, Bonnie, congratulations. And I wanted to catch up with Bonnie to see which are the things that have happened since then. Bonnie is an in-demand working instructor for admin professionals and executives, and she travels the world to bring her training, be the ultimate assistant training, to let admin professionals excel in their role and be business partners when working with executives and leaders. I attended the Be the Ultimate Assistant workshop in Brussels in 2019, and since then I've been always reaching out to Bonnie to see what she has to say about the workplace and the issues that we see in the workplace. We are gonna refresh the contents and see what are the updates and the trends that we have been seeing in 2024 and beyond. We're gonna speak about leaders. Which is the role that leaders play when building the ultimate workplace, the workplace in which the people want to work? It always comes down to people. The people, the staff. Staff matters and we know it, but which is the role that the people play in the organization when leading companies, when deciding to stay in a company, and of course, which are the drivers that the people have in their minds when making those kind of decisions? And again, artificial intelligence. How people are dealing with the artificial intelligence, with the technology that is coming in the workplace. And last but not least, we're going to share the stories, the experiences, the lessons learned that we are going to bringing from 2024. Please enjoy our conversation and stay tuned. Hi, Bonnie. Hello, and welcome again
Marco.
to the MACE podcast. How are you?
Oh, I'm great here in Florida, nice and warm, and just so happy to be back on the MACE podcast.
Yes.
Feels like I'm a regular.
Yes, of course. This is the fifth time actually that I invited you, and we have been having a lot of great conversation. And of course, this one that we're gonna make today, it does not fail the expectations of our audience because we have a lot of things that we need to share. So, first of all, Bonnie, let's be back 2 years ago because we are celebrating the anniversary of Stuff Matters, your book. So congratulations. I'm so happy that you have this milestone already in your list. And actually, I will be putting in the description the link of the former episode that we made exactly 2 years ago. We met 2 years ago. We made an episode dedicated entirely to the book and to its release. And in this episode, we made and we touched a lot of topics that still are discussed by colleagues, by people that are in touch with me, and they say that they found this episode completely inspiring for them. So I wanted to bring also this feedback to you. And of course, celebrating the MACE podcast 2 years later, we have now the situation when the book has been released. You have been visiting a lot of countries as you are normally doing, right? Bringing your training across the globe. And of course, you have been seeing a lot of trends that you were speaking about those trends in the book. So which are the highlights? Which are the things more relevant that you would like to share with us today, Bonnie?
Yeah, and there are three that really jump out at me. And the first is it's inescapable in 2025 about AI, about artificial intelligence. It seems like so many business articles and podcasts are talking about AI and all the different apps and whatever. And so there's a lot of fear out in the workplace about AI taking humans' jobs.
Yeah.
And the reality is, certainly in the assistant world, that is happening at a lower level, but not at a higher level. The universal truth that we have seen over the last 2 years is that people matter, that executives, managers want human beings by their side who they trust, who know their preferences, even if and when they make mistakes.
Yeah.
And even robots make mistakes, but
Yeah.
humans want to work with humans. So that's of course, the title of the book is Staff Matters. The humans matter. As long as humans are still running companies, the people are going to matter in an organization. And you were sitting in on a podcast, a webinar the other day that I was doing, and wow, was that idea validated? That we just asked the audience, oh, do you want to work with a human or a robot? Take your pick. And most said a combination of, many said combination of both, but humans overwhelmingly, won.
Yeah.
The return to office. In these last 2 years, we've seen an increasing trend of more and more companies wanting their people back in the office 5 days. And interestingly enough, the humans of our workplace are saying that they see the value. In not all, but many companies, they see the value of being in the office with people, that to be with people in person is a different experience than meeting with them over Zoom. Now, it seems to me that the ideal combo for a lot of folks who I'm talking to is the going into the office 4 days and being at home one. That seems to have some flexibility, but that's still playing out. There's a lot of movement in this subject, and I'm sure you're hearing, and that's happening all over the world. And then the third thing is the gender issues in the workplace, which lead to DEI and the issues of inclusion and belonging. Chapter 16 in the book is called Sex, and it's about gender differences in the workplace, which are very much in play. We're living in a workplace where prior to the pandemic, 51% of the workplace were women. And now in a post-pandemic world, it's 46%. So we've lost a lot of women in the workplace, and it's a very volatile situation in motion. And what is happening with creating a safe space for employees to go to. If there are, because DE&I is under fire, it's being discontinued in many companies. And, you and I on this podcast, we've never shied away from, it's not happening everywhere. But it's certainly happening in a big way in the United States. So those are the three big trends in the last 2 years that I'm seeing.
Thanks a lot for sharing. And actually, those trends were part of an event that we organized and we scheduled last year in October in Milan. And before getting to this topic and making you the second question, I would like to share with the audience a slide to help them visualize a little bit what your tour was all about, and of course, how pretty much the event in Milan was all about. So let me share the screen and let me see.
We had so much fun that night. You brought together a room full of assistants from all over Milan.
Yes, thanking also Carla Stefanut, of course, for her collaboration. So big thanks to Carla. And in this slide, we are seeing with some with highlights the hotspot that in the places that you have been running your training, be the ultimate assistant, and you added five different highlights here in Europe because of course this was part of the tour that you made in the fourth quarter of 2024 last year with two pictures of us in Milan, both dressing a yellow clothes, because of course this was the color that we chose. And of course, the pictures really portray the ethos, the environment that we were pretty much breathing in such a kind of event. So this event really witnessed that the power of the network, the power of the people matter, as you said. But of course, it was an example of how the people are able to stand not just for the right things, but for the thing right. So how did the tour go, first of all? And which are the memories, the highlights that you would like to bring to the audience that you were experiencing in Milan during the event?
Well, and I thank you and Carla Stefano for inviting me and to making it happen. It was a really powerful night in Milan where there were about 30 high-level executive assistants representing many different companies, but there was also a representative from HR in the room, as I recall, and maybe two. Yes, two. And that was a very enlightening interaction. In the travels I did in October, November, starting we went to Ireland and then we came to you in Italy and then on to Scotland and then London. My hope in every event I did was to not only have assistants in the room, but to invite HR, to invite leaders, to invite recruiters in order to do what Staff Matters does, which is to have a collaborative conversation, to offer empathy. And one of the highlights was how important it was for the assistants to talk with HR about what they were all thinking and feeling and how HR responded to the assistance from that. Because we know worldwide, historically, there's been somewhat of a contention between EAs and HR. And it was just so powerful to talk about, an executive assistant's experience with, say, a toxic work environment and getting a chance to look at our HR reps and say, so may I know your reaction to that? What do you think about that?
I thought that, yes, I think that the reactions overall that came through the discussion that we were having in the room was real. So you feel that people were bringing not just thoughts, but they were bringing their experience and they were looking for insights that could help them bridge this gap that you are speaking about in your book. So bridging the gap between, the admin world and the HR one and the leaders one is actually what the book is all about, right? That's why you are focusing on the staff, on the backbone of the companies. And in the event, we were able to highlight those steps that EAs, HR, and leaders should take, the steps that they should take in order to find the common ground, in order to find the collaboration that is really the ethos of the new workplace. So this is what I saw. And what I see also is that we were able to understand that we improved a little bit, but we have a lot to do, right, in order to get to this.
Oh, yeah. But, and it wasn't only what you and I were sharing with the room, but it was the opportunities, a powerful opportunity to bring them together to talk with each other. Because, in a few days later after our event, I was flying away to the next country. What they had, what you all had was each other. And that's where the power is. And that's one of the messages that I'm sharing as often as I can.
Yes. So thanks a lot for sharing this. And this is a catalyst of conversation. And one of the things that we touched is, of course, the possibility to find the so-called sweet spot. I'm sharing another slide that, of course, was part of the training of the webinar that we both attended a few days ago. And in this slide, you spoke about the so-called the sweet spot. So this spot in which each professional should be, right, in order to feel empowered and valorized. Can you please describe what this sweet spot is all about? And then we will move forward in order to understand which is the role that leaders play in order to this sweet spot.
Over the years teaching Be the Ultimate Assistant, workshop, we have very deep conversations, and I concluded that these are the things that every staff person, if you say yes to a job, yep, sign me up, I want to take the job, these are the four things that staff wants. Many people, when they look at this slide, they say, "Oh, you're talking about Japanese ikigai." There's an expression in Japanese that is similar to this feeling, but I didn't even have any idea about
Yeah.
ikigai when I created this slide.
Yeah.
We all want to do work that we love doing. We want to wake up every day and love what we do.
Yeah.
We want to know that the marketplace needs the skill that we love doing.
Yeah.
We want to be great at it. There's a difference between what we love to do and are we really great at it.
Great at it.
So
Yeah.
we love it. We're great at it. The market needs it. And here's the piece, the bottom piece is the one that is usually missing
Yeah.
for a lot of staffers, and that is getting paid fairly,
Fairly.
paid well for those things that we love to do, that we're great at, and that the market needs. And so that's what I believe we are searching for, is to get to that sweet spot. And that's what my training is about. That's what
Yeah.
Staff Matters is
Yeah.
about. It's the effort I believe that this is possible, that
Yeah.
every person who takes a job should be in the sweet spot.
Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing this. And I completely agree with you. So this is the ideal mechanism that, of course, each one of the individual should have, right, in order to find himself or herself in a workplace and feel appreciated, feel valued, and feel aligned with what
Yep.
he or she is going to be doing, right, from a role point of view. Now, since we deep dive into the discussion, you dedicate a lot of thoughts, a lot of insights about leadership, right? Because we leaders play a pivotal role in running the business, but also in letting people feel well managed or not. And of course, we have data, and you made the TEDx talk speaking about that, that show that people actually do not leave companies, but people leave managers, especially when they don't see things happening around and when they don't feel well managed. So I want to let our audience visualize also this slide that was one of the questions that you made in the training. And this is a question because I really want to let our audience envision this data, this number. What is the average age that a leader receives their very first training in managing people? So how did you come in your mind with such a kind of question, Bonnie? What was the trigger of that?
Well, when I was in London in 2012 and another speaker asked the audience that question, and so few people raised their hand, and these were seasoned professionals, these were not kids. I thought, wow, what's going on? I became really curious, like, why are there so many poor leaders out there? Why? I've got dozens of leadership management books out there. There's all this material. They're best-selling books and speakers. How is this such a problem? And it came down to an article that says we wait too long to train our leaders. Perhaps you want to go to the answer.
Yes.
One might think it's younger than this, but the reality is when leaders are polled for the age 46, and that is far too late. There's a lot of damage that can be done before age 46. You imagine getting out of business school, and in not too long a time, most managers are given people to manage, they have direct reports. How do they know how to do that? Leadership is not an innate skill. It's a learned skill. And so this data point, Marco explained so much to me, to the point where it's in the introduction to my book. This changed everything for me. This made so much sense, and it makes sense to everyone I share it with. It's like, oh, all right, well, that's the reason we need more education. We need more awareness, and we need more of those kinds of conversations that happened in Milan that you and Carlos supported. Is like, let's get HR in the room, let's get leaders in the room and recruiters, and talk to each
about those
other.
things, of course. And the way to solve issues in the workplace that, of course, has a variety of issues is getting together and starting getting together and starting having such a kind of conversation in order to find and to bring the heads together and, of course, bring such a kind of solutions together. And that's what we did in Milan. But I wanted to spot the light on the TEDx talk that you did, titled the real reasons people quit. And that has to do with leaders and with the things that we see missing and connected
Yep.
to the issues that we see in the workplace. Again, sharing the screen to help the audience visualize those things that you are speaking about in your TEDx talk. And of course, the people and the audience will find the link in the description of this episode. Okay. So what is this episode all about? Can you give us a little bit of background?
Yeah, I decided that I was asked to do this TEDx talk, and it's a great honor for that. And I was, really, I took it very seriously. And I thought, well, if this is the only TEDx talk I'm ever going to give, I have to talk about a very burning issue. And that's people quitting jobs, because you don't start a job thinking you're going to have to quit. And too many, I mean, you've been in rooms with me, Marco, and you heard those stories in Milan. There are too many staff who are sitting in something of a toxic work environment for whatever reason, the pressures of this workplace, whatever, we understand it, but it certainly is no excuse for it. So we live through the Great Resignation.
Yeah, as a phenomenon.
And people are still quitting jobs. And what I concluded in this TEDx talk to help leaders and to assist with empathy is that what are the top 4 things that staff wants? And I concluded that these were the top 4 things in this order. In this order that, everybody notices, well, money is number 3. 100%. And that the other day on the webinar was validated too, that respect is number 1. Absolutely. People want to be respected for the role they occupy, whether they are on the janitorial staff, whether they're the CEO, whether they're a middle manager, whether they're an assistant, whatever. Number 2 is belonging and a sense of importance, as a unique contributor, as opposed to just a number. Perhaps most people know what that feels like, and it feels terrible. Number 3 is absolutely fair compensation. We need money. We need to pay our bills, but it is not number 1. Absolutely not. And number 4 is support to learn and grow. Is to, and you were saying before we started recording that you were surprised that, if a candidate is applying for jobs, and company A is offering a fair salary and an annual training budget, but company B is offering a higher salary but no training budget. Most candidates are going to choose company A.
Where the budget is there, because the people want to be to have the perception of the investment, that the companies are going to make on them. So this is something surprising. And of course, the webinar really showed us the possibility to have such a kind of universal principles that are valid across the globe, because the people that are working, they believe in those principles that we are talking about. So this sense of belonging, this sense of perception, this awareness, that I'm inspired by the whisper that you referred to, right? When you speak to the people, you wanted to catch the whisper that speaks to you from deep inside, because this whisper is something that cannot go so easily. So I'm very inspired by your approach when speaking to people, and they feel that those kind of things really touch.
And let me say something. A lot of people talk about respect, but what does that mean really? What is that? And I think it's very important to say it doesn't have to cost any money, and it doesn't have to be, huge things. Respect is shown by just saying, please and thank you and not interrupting and um, saying good morning, Marco, to
Yeah,
say your name and to make sure we're pronouncing your name properly.
yeah,
Those are shows of respect. And so I think it's valuable to not only say that we need to respect everybody, that's a big general, ask.
yeah.
Let's get specific about what that really means. It's everyday common courtesy, frankly.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you. And so we have pretty much explored such a kind of topics, and we pretty much are keeping up with what we shared in the former episode that we made last year, but with fresh contents, right? With data supporting our conversation and
Yeah.
with the experience that we had live in Milan in the room. So speaking about now the stories, because you know that the season two of the Maze podcast is that we have thousands of stories, but there is only one
Yeah.
heart beating in us and in the Maze podcast. I would like to focus in this last part of the episode, wrapping up, on what are the lessons learned that you would like to share with the audience in this 2020
Yeah.
heading to 2025, because this is something that the audience would like to learn more.
Yeah. Well, if I may,
Yeah.
I was coaching a manager out of California, and I think this not so long story will help talk about lessons learned and takeaways for the future. Um, I was He's a new manager, and he was going to be doing an annual review for his assistant, for one of
Yeah.
the assistants who was a direct report. And we talked through what that meeting should look like because he was nervous and how to do the raise and how to have this conversation. Well, it was a planned talk, and in no way did the assistant feel that her job was in jeopardy. But he definitely had some things that he wanted to work on for 2025.
Yeah.
So they had this meeting. He put his ideas in writing
Yeah.
about the things that have been going very well for the last year and the things that needed improvement. And then he said to her, "Now I'd like you to do the same thing with me. May I know what can I do to support you to do your work better? As a manager, what kinds of things would you like to see me do better?" So
Yeah.
he was sincere about asking for feedback, and that was a very important aspect of this meeting. And
Yeah.
then they concluded, "Do you have anything else to say?" It was a conversation. It
Yeah.
wasn't just, a manager, raining down information on a staffer.
Yeah.
And then he revealed the raise that was, fair, and she was delighted. And then the meeting was over and they had a plan. They had a plan for 2025. What
Yeah.
he didn't tell her was that he was giving her a bonus for the end of the year, which would have been the first one she'd ever gotten at the company.
Yeah.
And after a couple of days, when she opened her paycheck and she saw it, she was so moved and came to him practically in tears and to thank him for the bonus, which she was such a needed and unexpected thing to receive. And she said, "And I have something to tell you." She said, "I received a job offer in the last couple of days, and
Yeah.
the job offer is more money than I make here, but I turned the job down. I'm not taking it because I want to continue working with you. That annual review I had was the best meeting I've ever had with a manager. And now you've done this with the bonus. I want to continue working with you. I'm not
Yeah.
leaving."
So this is a clear example of how the foundation of a loyalty that a person can have for a company and the relationship that with a manager can be is definitely what matters. Is
Right. And when
matters.
you think about it,
Yeah.
her not quitting
Yeah.
was stabilizing to the organization.
Of
Like
course.
if she had quit, now all of a sudden he has to start again and find a new person and interview people and train them. It's so time
Yeah.
consuming
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
costly. So the small amount of money, comparatively speaking, for the bonus and the
Yeah.
increase is pennies, so
Yeah.
small compared to what it would have cost having it to replace you. So I think that is a big lesson from the last couple of years and that's not anything AI can do, my
Of course,
friends.
yes, because this is the human touch that we need. And it's definitely showing that, of course, I can witness for that. The power of the people and the power of the network really matters. As I was changing job, of course, as the network know, and I know that I was able to stay committed to the ultimate workplace as we are collaborating, as I am doing the podcast. This sense of commitment was appreciated, and the network that I have around really recognizes the efforts that I'm putting together in order, to be a trustworthy point of contact, a colleague that is committed to, standing not just for the things right, as we said, but for the right thing. And this is something that cannot be replaced by money, because as we learned, Bonnie, principles have no price. And this is something that, of course, I've learned, and I feel that this will be the one of the principles that we mentioned, right, in one of the things that we touched during this podcast.
Yeah.
And now I want to wrap up using the slide that inspires me, and I wanted to let the audience be inspired as well. So these slides is going to wrap up our conversation. If not now, when? Right. And what do you, this is pretty much explanatory, right? Of the momentum that we need to take in order to get to this ultimate workplace, Bonnie, right?
Right. If the pandemic taught us anything, it is that life can change in a heartbeat. And life is changing so fast right now. I don't think we're ever going to be out of change.
Yeah.
So are we actually going to say, I'll get to it. I'll get to it next month, next year. I'll wait on that. What I see from my travels and knowing so many people all over the world is do it now.
Yeah.
If not now, when? Go for it. If your gut is telling you, to be more ambitious, to speak up, to speak truth to power, I say now's the time.
Yeah. Bonnie, what to say? Thanks for being a guest again of the MACE podcast. We made an amazing episode, and I'm sure that the audience will treasure the things that we touched today. So thanks a lot. It has been a pleasure to have you, and I cannot wait to see you again, who knows, in person or virtually, to celebrate together.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Marco. Thanks for this opportunity. And thank you for the MACE podcast and your commitment to making the workplace a better place.
Thank you,
It
Bonnie.
matters.
A lot. Also for me and for the audience. Thanks a lot, Bonnie. Speak soon. Bye.
Bye.